This is Adam Stern from the Seattle Philharmonic, speaking to you from the lovely confines of the Cascadia Art Museum in Edmonds, with our videographer Cal Lewin at the helm. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the opening concert for this season at the Philharmonic, and give you a little foretaste of the rest of the concerts as well. That'll be later. We're going to open our season with a look at myths and fantasies. Composers have been indulging their love of myths and legends for goodness knows how long, probably since the first of them set pen to paper or rock to cave wall, or however they wrote music. And we're going to be looking at 5 very different myths, legends, visions by 5 very different composers. Opening up with the overture to Prometheus, Beethoven's only full-length ballet. He had written a modest effort when he was about 21 called Knight's Ballet, or Music for a Courtly Ballet. But by the time he wrote this ballet, Prometheus, when he was, I believe, 30 or 31, he had considerably matured as a composer, wrote beautifully for the orchestra already. And this overture has a stately introduction and then a very sprightly fast section. We're then going to turn to music by the Russian Alexander Borodin. And this is a very, very famous piece he wrote for orchestra called In the Steppes of Central Asia, in which he envisioned a caravan of soldiers and camels and horses in the Asian desert. And Borodin was, I was just talking to Cal before we started shooting, fascinating man, a professional chemist. He was a weekend composer, but considering that he didn't have as much time to devote to composition as he might have had he not been such a great chemist, he really left us with some extraordinarily wonderful works. And in this very short symphonic poem, his gift for melody comes to the fore not once but twice. There are 2 tunes that are just exquisite. The first one you hear at the outset on the solo clarinet. And the second melody is introduced by the English horn a couple of minutes later. And my favorite part of the piece is at the very end when he manages to take these 2 tunes and actually have them one on top of the other. It's a glorious bit of counterpoint. Gorgeous. Before intermission, we're going to play the ballet music from Charles Gounod's opera Faust, based on the old German legend. And yes, it's a very devilish opera, and yes, Mephistopheles certainly gets his due in terms of some pretty wild, crazy music, that is as wild as Gounod ever got. But the ballet music is by turns charming and nostalgic and sweet. And what's happening at this point is that Faust is thinking of reneging on the deal that he's made with the devil, and the devil says, look, I'm going to bring you the most gorgeous women in history as a temptation so that you don't renege on the deal. So we have, for example, the very first movement of the ballet music is about as charming a waltz as you could ever want. So that's about as, well, I was about to say that's about as heavy duty as the piece gets. There's a pretty bacchanalian, orgiastic finale, but it fits in. It's tasteful, I promise. This is a family-friendly concert. After intermission, we're going to turn to the music of Maria Grenfell, an absolutely spectacular composer based in Australia. This is a work that she wrote for orchestra called Hinemoa, based on an old Maori legend about 2 lovers whose families oppose their union, but the young man plays his flute when he tries to evoke his thoughts of her, and the music of his flute travels down the river that separates their villages and actually reaches her and cements their love for once and for all. In the time-honored tradition of 16th notes evoking water, which goes back as far as Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony, or as Bedřich Smetana did in his very famous tone poem, The Moldau. We have the water first suggested by these beautiful rippling 16th notes in the flutes. Which eventually becomes all-pervasive as the water takes over our visionary landscape. And then to conclude, staying with the water theme, probably the most beloved of all of Johann Strauss Jr.'s waltzes, the Blue Danube, a work that I'm returning to now for maybe the 4th or 5th time in my career. It's one of those pieces that never gets old. How can you resist? I can't. For the rest of the season, we're going to be capping all of our remaining 3 concerts with major symphonies. In January, we're going to climax our concert with the 8th Symphony in G major of Antonin Dvorak. That's going to be preceded by the symphonic poem Spring by Alexander Glazunov, and the US premiere of the violin concerto, subtitled Three Curious Loves by Isadora Gebelyan, with our concertmaster Luke Fitzpatrick as soloist. In April, we're going to present a concert that is going to end with the 3rd Symphony by Arthur Honegger, the great Swiss composer. He subtitled it the Liturgical Symphony. He wrote it right on the heels of World War II. It is about as impassioned and desperate a cry for peace and brotherhood and an end to dehumanization as any composer ever wrote. It's an amazing work. Before the intermission on that concert, we'll have the Seattle premiere of Bell and Drum Tower by Alexis Ulrich, evoking her memories of China, in which she lived for several years, and the 2nd piano concerto by Franz Liszt with this year's Don Buchel competition winner Nathan Zhao. The season is going to climax with a concert featuring 2 works for soprano and orchestra, L'Uonotar by Sibelius and Fairest of Stars by Grace Williams with our wonderful soprano soloist Stacy Mastrian. And after intermission, we're going to end with the Symphony No. 2 by Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky, the Ukrainian Symphony, in which he expressed his love for Ukrainian folk music, for their culture, for the very people themselves. I hope that you'll join us for this series of extraordinary concerts of music that you just won't get anywhere else.